Good evening, all. My name is Sean Holt. I'm faculty and vice dean of the Contemporary Division of the Thornton School of Music. Tonight, it is my privilege to welcome you to Rhythms and Revolution, Race, Gender, and Jazz, featuring the music of Terri Lynne Carrington and Säje, presented by USC Visions and Voices. Tonight, we affirm that USC was built on the sacred lands of the Tongva, Chumash, and Kizh peoples. The colonization of this land reflects the systems of power upon which this country was founded and which continue to operate today. We honor the Tongva and all indigenous people, past, present, and future, and their continued survival and contributions to our society. We also honor the legacy of the African diaspora and recognize that this country would not exist without the free, enslaved labor of Black people. We know that contemporary struggles for Black lives are connected to our history of violence and white supremacy. We share these acknowledgments to pay respect to the original caretakers of this land, to raise awareness about too often erased or forgotten, to recognize our place in history, and to affirm our commitment to social change. Jazz originated as a Black American art form, rooted in unbridled expression and the fight for equality. At USC, we strive to honor the rich legacy of this music and its architects through scholarship, practice, personal development, and musicianship. Inherent in that pursuit is an active interrogation of our commitment to justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. We acknowledge this work is central to our continued pursuit of excellence as exemplary leaders in the world in which we strive to create and influence. We are most fortunate this evening to hear the music and receive the valuable insights and wisdom from true, iconic geniuses of this art form. Can I get a clap for that? Tonight, we will hear and celebrate the music of NEA Jazz Master, three-time Grammy Award-winning drummer, composer, producer, educator, Terri Lynne Carrington. With Grammy-nominated supergroup Säje and our very own popular music chair, Grammy-nominated, world-renowned recording artist, pianist, composer, educator, Dr. Patrice Rushen. That illustrious group will be joined by renowned bassist Anna Butterss, and will feature three of our USC students: Eliza Pedrosian on guitar, Nicole McCabe on saxophones, and Ethan Chilton on trumpet. Tonight's performance will feature intermittent conversations throughout the evening regarding gender, race, equality within the jazz genre. We strongly encourage your questions and participation. Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge our media partner, KCRW, the presence and support of the Los Angeles Jazz Society, and our faculty organizer for this event, Ms. Sarah Gazarek. Now, I ask that you please join me in welcoming to the stage Terri Lynne Carrington, Patrice Rushen, Anna Butterss, Nicole McCabe, and Ethan Chilton.
While Eliza changes guitars, I'll take this as an opportunity to say hello and say how happy I am to be here, be back here. It's been such a long time. Yes, I used to teach here for a couple of years. Let's see, I guess it was around 2004. So it's been a minute. And boy, do I miss this campus. Such a beautiful place to learn. That was a piece written by the late, great Jerry Allen called Unconditional Love. And I try to play that song as much as possible. I really do feel it's, you know, one of the more beautiful songs that should be considered a standard. So I'm always trying to play it and encourage other. I think we've recorded it like 3 times. Just trying to create new standards. But I think we'll talk more about some of those ideas later. We'd like to continue with a song I wrote from an album called Jazz is a Spirit. And the name of this is The Corner.
Would you please join me in welcoming to the stage Grammy-nominated group, Sage.
the who of who changed you, the who that broke open your sleeping soul, the endless list of who. Carry the what with you when you go, the what of what sickness we've let plague us, the what kind of person you get to be, the wake-up call of what. Let the where linger thick in the air you breathe, the where you felt safe sleeping but others lie with both eyes open. The where great empires have been built and then cracked in the backs of those who built them. The shining darkness of where. Never forget the when of now, the one of hundreds of years, the systemic fear of goodness, terror, apathy, sacrifice, the realization that we are the when. And what's most important, learn the why by heart. The why of why silence could possibly be an option, why our own discomfort in the face of truth could become priority. The why of why not now. Learn the why by heart as this moment slips away.
Professor Carrington, in your article, Dismantling Patriarchy is a Daily Practice, you acknowledge that jazz is a Black American music and a fundamentally progressive art form that has long played a significant role in the movement for civil rights and social justice. You also acknowledge jazz has had a long and sordid reputation as a male-dominated art form. That often those in the jazz community are so entrenched and inherently invested in this patriarchal structure that we unconsciously contribute to it. With a stage full of incredibly accomplished and genius female musicians, composers, educators, and producers, many of whom have worked their way through music academia to come into the music of the United States, I'm curious if you might be willing to speak to your experiences on the bandstand or rising through the ranks of academia, shedding light on the pervasive and defining characteristics that you feel deserve the most awareness around this subject.
Well, first of all, I'm very happy to hear you call women geniuses. Because, yeah, I don't think that happens enough. I try to say it as often as I can because one day I realized, oh, how come all the men are called geniuses? And I rarely hear that term when describing a woman musician, especially a woman instrumentalist. So, you know, for me, it was just a journey to wake up to these things that I unconsciously took a part in. I think, you know, we spend so much time trying to, you know, fit into what's happening around us, fit into what's basically, in essence, a boys' club. And women instrumentalists, it's interesting because it's a dance that we have to do. We don't want to be too different. We want to fit in, but you know, we don't really want to be one of the boys. But then we want to be able to socialize and to be hired and not you know, be ostracized because we're not. But we still want to be able to, you know, we still have to hold on to our feminine traits, or then that's not acceptable either. So there's this really interesting dance that I found myself going through without really acknowledging it. I'd say for, you know, 25 years or so. And then somehow a light bulb went off, and I thought everybody should be able to bring their authentic self to the table and learn, you know, and this is in academia as well as in the professional world. And, you know, when you start looking at how many opportunities there may have been for women to express themselves possibly differently than their male colleagues, and how that was kind of shied away from. we're missing a lot of opportunity in the music, in the development of the music. So jazz has so much more potential than what's been realized thus far. And I'm happy to say, just from teaching at Berklee College, I'm noticing that this generation is different. You know, and yeah, I'm feeling so hopeful. I just, want to be around long enough to really see this change happen, because it's so encouraging right now that people are, really being themselves and not feeling like they have to be an exception to a rule. The rules are changing. So, I don't know if I even answered your question.
Beautifully. Beautifully.
Okay.
Sarah, should we go on for some more music, maybe? All right.
So we started with a song written by a bassist named Reed Anderson for a group called the Bad Plus, and the song was called As This Moment Slips Away. And one of the themes of this evening, the music, is songs and music and art that reflects what's happening in the world, and a call for awareness of what is happening in life, and to be given permission as human beings to let things that are happening around us be birthed into the art that we're creating. And so that was an arrangement that we brought into our group specifically to sort of acknowledge, I don't know if I can curse, I won't, the atrocity of years that we've had the last couple years, and to hold on to the lessons that we learned and not forget them. So that was called As This Moment Slips Away. Just hold on to all of the things that we've learned. This next song is an original composition written by our very own John A. Kendrick, and I will let her speak about it.
Thank you. To be completely honest, there was a time, I have two beautiful 7-year-old twin girls at home right now, Nola and Adore. Hi, babies, I love you. But when I was expecting, I found out that I was having twins very early, and I was immediately so frightened. And I was essentially praying to God, God, if you give me little brown baby boys, please give me the strength to allow them to exist in this world and allow me to be strong enough to love them. And so I started praying for everyone around me, the people that are around my children right now. I pray for them all of the time, that they can see the beauty in those beautiful black little girls and see their humanity. And so I wrote this song. It's a tribute to the Black Lives Matter movement, entitled Never You Mind.
We'd like to ask, when we finish this piece, that we'll take a moment of silence together.
They push you, they pull you, don't even know how much you can bear, though they tell you that they rule you. Never you mind, never you mind, never you mind. Oh, you come from a legacy of warriors, and though there's fear, know that fears will fuel the fire and courage that led us here. Though they tell you they control you, never you mind, never push you, they pull you. Don't even know how much you can bear. Though they tell you that they rule you, never you You come from a legacy of warriors and know this fear. Know that fears and fuel the kind of courage that led us here. Though they tell you that they rule you, You matter, you matter, oh, you matter, you matter, you matter, you matter, oh, you matter, you matter. Michael Brown, Philando Castillo, Terrence Crutcher, Alton Sterling, Walter Scott, Eric Harris, Sam DuBose, Tony Robinson, Rumaine Brisbane, Tamir Rice, Laquan McDonald, Stephen Clark, Eric Garner, Oscar Grant, Antoine Rose, Sandra Bland, Keel Dinkins, Freddie Gray, Paul O'Neill, Akai Gurley, Greg Gunn, Jamar Clark, Botham Jean, Tatiana Jefferson, Ahmad Arbery, David McAtee, Manuel Ellis, Rayshard Brooks, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. You matter, you matter, you matter, you matter. Thank you.
Shanae Kendrick. Quickly introduce this next song while Eliza Petrosian is tuning her guitar. This was our first original composition, and we wanted to celebrate what it felt like to be in an unencumbered space with 4 female creators and acknowledge the peace that we felt. Terri Lynne also taught us recently the beauty that, you know, true equality is reflected in mixed ensembles also. We're constantly learning from Terri. But we also wrote this song out of love for one another, so this is our love letter to each other. This is Desert Song. Is there a beep? Is that a high-pitched me? Someone have a pitch pipe?
See the ocean, you're drawn to the strength inside the waves. But if you get caught within the ocean, the undertow will let you lose your way. I bet when you reach the ocean, can't wait to sink your toes into the sand. Instead you will sink into the ocean and watch your heart pull slowly from your hands. Oh, she's calling, calling. She's calling, calling. She's calling, calling. She's calling. Someday you will reach the desert, held by the warmth within the skies. Breathe in the exhale of the desert and see yourself reflected in her eyes. The moment you reach the you realize she's been singing a song of life and love. She's been singing a song of life. To your surprise, you're singing with the desert. You've always known the words to sing along. You have a voice. You have a voice. You have a voice. You have a voice. You're coming home where you belong. She's calling. She's calling. Oh, she She's calling, calling. She's calling, calling, calling.
That's quite literally a call to action. I absolutely love it. There's a common thread running through this evening, all the music, about the importance of creating art that reflects social issues and calling for change and giving voice to those who need amplification, asking questions. Terri Lynne, could you or some of your colleagues here speak to the importance of this in your art, how you recommend that we as creators in this audience go about embracing this in our own creations? Perhaps Dr. Rushen could speak to it.
Good evening. So, I have a couple of things to say about that. One is that the idea of the questions being raised now are different from the ideas of the questions that were being raised in the past. Meaning this, that a lot of times people talk about the problem. And they talk about the problem ad nauseum. But it's not, wow, isn't this awful? Or wow, doesn't this need to change? Or wow, this is so different. It should be. What are you going to do about it? That's the question that I think is starting to be answered now and starting to be asked. What are you going to do about it? And some of you have already started on that path by embracing the idea of educating yourselves and embracing the idea of listening before you speak and embracing the idea of understanding that whatever and whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey of life, that there's always something that you can do. So as educators, as creators, as musicians, as artists, I think that we have an added responsibility because of our empathic nature and realizing that we feel things very deeply, that we can't afford to ignore them any longer, that those feelings matter and that they count, and that with our art, that is almost the safest way to be able to affect change. First, personally, get your act together. Then, in so doing, your actions will speak to others. You don't have to do that much if you try first to operate from within and understand what's up and try to do something about you. So one of the biggest changes that I think has happened, especially when I'm speaking to my colleagues here and to other young women that are out there, is that the biggest change is with us. We belong where we belong. We are able to do what we are able to do. We are vessels of important information, the carriers of important information that is equally as valuable to our male counterparts as it is to us and to society. And one of the things that I think is really important to remember as we all move forward at whatever place we're at in this particular journey of life, this particular stage, is that as artists and creatives, we have this responsibility to answer a higher call. We don't just do what we do just for us. We work pretty hard and practice long hours And if this is all about just us, man, that's a lot of time. It's not about just you. It's what you'll do with the messages that you have, the information that you have, the experiences that you have, and continue to be seekers of a certain kind of knowledge which gives you access to your greatest self. And that's a full-time job.
Thank you, Dr. Rushen. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hear some more music now, and I would invite you to formulate any questions you would like to ask these genius musicians who are on stage as we take our last pause after a few more songs. We welcome you to come up to the microphones that are here at the edge of the stage on both sides of the aisle, and we will try and fit in a few questions before we conclude the evening. Thank you.
Do we have any Bjork fans in the building? So early on in the pandemic, Sage got together on the internet and pulled up youtube.com and watched an incredible film starring Bjork and her music, orchestrated by Vince Mendoza, who I think
teaches
many of you know.
Yeah.
It's called Dancer in the Dark. And we just fell, I think Johnny and Sarah already were in love with the soundtrack, and Amanda and I quickly fell in love right behind them. And so this is the first and the last song from that movie called New World.
This was arranged by Aaron, and I think that part of the reason why we chose this song was because it existed at a point in the pandemic where we wanted to see a new world coming, and she wrote and arranged the most visceral birthing of a potential new world that I've heard. So we hope you enjoy.
See
from here. Ooh.
dancers in line. Ooh.
This next song is a song written by probably one of the most prolific female composers of our time. Word on the street is that she writes a song every single day and has had over 15 #1 hits. I, like many adults, experienced infidelity at one point, and the first version that you probably have heard of this song is tender and sweet and mostly has a rolling guitar part, and the person who sings it very sweetly. But when I experienced what this song speaks about, I wanted to burn the house down and stepped into that anger in a way that felt incredibly uncomfortable. I think we're conditioned as women to not feel allowed to like truly go there, and I did, and it felt amazing. Much to like Patrice spoke to, when you realize that your music is meant to heal everyone, it doesn't feel quite as selfish to go there. So this is Dolly Parton's Jolene. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Jolene, 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 Jolene. I'm begging of you, please don't take my man. Jolene, 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 Jolene. Please don't take him just because you can. Your beauty is beyond compare, with flaming locks of auburn hair, with ivory skin and eyes of emerald green. Your smile is like a breath of spring, your voice is soft like summer rain, and I cannot compete with you, Jolene. He talks about you in his sleep. There's nothing I can do to keep from crying when he calls your name, Jolene. And I can easily understand how you could easily take my man, but you don't know what he means to me, Jolene, 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 Jolene. I'm begging of you, please don't take my man. Jolene, 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 Jolene. Please don't take him just because you can. Just because you can. Talks about you in his sleep. I cannot compete with you. All right, here we go. You could have your choice of men, but I could never love again. He's the only one for me, Jolene. I had to have this talk with you. My happiness depends on you. Whatever you decide to do, Jolene, 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 Jolene. Begging of you, please don't take my man. Jolene, 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 Jolene. Please don't take him, even though you can. Even though you can. Yeah. Even though you can. Joe, 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 Sarah Gazarek.
I so appreciate the way you formatted this evening so that we could have a conversation with all this wonderful music. And I think it's we're very fortunate right now that we've got a little bit of time left before we have to call it a night. We'd love to invite you down to these microphones. Please stay masked to stay safe. But if you have some questions for these wonderful musicians and leaders of art, please come up here and share them with us. Come on, don't be shy. Come on, Sophia. I know you've got a question. Come on, Brian Graven. Get up here and ask a question. Anybody? Start it off for us. Here we go. We have one on that side. Thank you so much.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for this amazing concert. I really enjoyed it. I wanted to ask the black women on stage more specifically, how could we encourage more black women and black people in general to go into jazz music, especially like here? I feel like Thornton is a predominantly white school, so how could we encourage more black people and especially black women, like you were saying, like to be our authentic self? Like what gives you the courage to come on this stage and to do that? Thank you.
Yeah.
We may have three different answers to that, but you know, as far as black music and black artists studying black music, it's an interesting thing because through teaching it at Berkeley, I've realized, I don't know, sometimes you have to start where people are at. You know, if they're listening to hip hop or gospel music, we try to get in that way, you know, and try to show them the connections between the past and the present. Other times it's, you know, people that really are attracted to, you know, the older forms of black music and they're attracted to the history. And, you know, we still make the connections. You just have to kind of come, you know, different ways. Everybody's different. There's no real cookie cutter way. But I think history is really important, and you can't teach black music without teaching the culture and the history of the music. And I think that's what's happening with academia, and it's starting to, you know, shift. But I think that people have been learning the music in that kind of academic way for a while without learning the history and the culture, and it's created, I don't know, like a void. It's created a kind of a like watering down of sorts, you know, of the music. And now these conversations, we can see not even just about music, but just black history. These conversations are coming up, and people have to fight for their right to teach black history in school systems now. So we're coming to this kind of awakening that is all connected. And there's a lot of incredible jazz that mixes these genres, you know, mixes hip hop and indie rock and classical music and you name it. Every kind of other music is mixed in with jazz at some point by somebody. And it's really a fertile time. Some of the youth look at jazz as being, you know, people that say jazz is dead, and some people say jazz is not dead, it just smells funny. And, you know, I kind of disagree with all that because I feel like it's extremely fertile. And there's so many, once record companies kind of got out the way, there's so much room to be individual and to, you know, independent artists really started to change the game. And now most people don't have a choice, that most people are independent. So that's actually a freedom that we're still trying to figure out. But, you know, I think that it's never going to sell like, I mean, hip hop sells, I think, 33% of music, of consumed music, and jazz sells 1%. So, I mean, we're not trying to, you know, I don't see it ever selling like pop music or like hip hop, but that 1%, you know, is still a lot, you know, when you think about the population of this country. And, you know, maybe it will move to 2%, but I think that, you know, the real thing is to just recognize that it's such an important part of our culture, and it's so fun and so cool once you really understand it and get into it. So as educators, we have to meet people, I think, where they are and help them, especially, you know, it's kind of your own music, your own culture, and everybody else is studying it. So, why not jump on in there and tackle it? Because my dear friend Jerry Allen, when she was asked a question like that, she simply said 2 words or 3 words, because it's hard. And it's not easy music, but it's amazing.
I'll just say one very quick thing. I have served as professor of music this is my 12th year now.
Tenured professor.
And one of the things that I've really been attempting to get my colleagues to understand is that, exactly like Terri Lynne was saying, we need to meet people where they are. There's all of this value placed on the ability to sight read and all of these like classical approaches to this music, and just having good ears and knowing how things are supposed to sound and being able to create those sounds is devalued. But that's where there's a lot of knowledge in there. There's a lot of that. And I just realized that, students who come into institutions at times are not able to celebrate their ability to just hear things and play what they are, because institutions expect the students to articulate exactly what it is. If there's going to be any value, you got to tell me exactly what you're doing and how you figured it out. And sometimes we don't approach music in that way. I think it's really important that institutions are willing to accept the fact that we all learn in different ways. We all process music in different ways. We experience music in different ways. And all of those ways are valuable. So as a student who went into college and wasn't especially good at music theory in my first year, because I hadn't learned how to learn music theory, but I had ears and I could transcribe anything. I didn't know what I was writing down, but I knew what I was hearing, something. And there was no one that encouraged me and said, hey, you got some good ears. Let's just keep working on that. And then also, let's translate this and make sure that you understand what it is that you're doing. So I really think that there needs to be some value put on intuition, on knowing and trusting. And there's always time to learn the technical aspects of this music, but it's really important to just embrace the beauty of the improvisation and the process of learning in an improvisatory way, if that makes sense.
I totally agree with both of what the ladies have offered to the answer to your question. I'm going to add to that. I think part of your question was, how do we bring more black people into jazz? And I would say, just like you're brought to other stuff, you realize that it's on some level, at some point, that it's important to you to know. You don't have to like it, but you need to know. You need to know because all the other musics, especially American music, are branches of that same tree. And you want to understand more about that music and where it comes from and stuff, and you're supposed to be interested because that music was invented by people who look like you. That should be enough to pique your interest just a little bit. And there's lots of information for you to be able to find out more and realize a certain kind of pride in it that you'll share with others. Black, white, it doesn't matter. When you're proud of something, you want to let people know. Go see it. Go support it. Find out what it is about. Build a habit. That habit starts with doing something consciously. And consciously, if it's of interest to you and you feel like it's relevant and you feel like it's important even to the music that you listen to, knowing it came from somewhere, it didn't all just start the other day, then you can find certain kinds of information that may be inspiring. You can listen to music that has been created, influenced, and adapted by this entire world who thinks more of jazz than we do, ironically. But the idea here is that if you have an interest, then go find out, ask somebody, talk to people, and take your friends with you and appreciate what it is that you hear and what it is that you see. Because when we play jazz, it is music that is witnessed one time, the time you are there, and then it's gone. Until the next time those artists and musicians revisit certain forms and understanding and traditions and continue to bust through the ceiling and break the wall and perpetuate the idea that jazz is spirit. Just what she said.
This question is for either Professor Rushen or Terri Lynne. What new challenges are you seeing, being that you guys are in the commercial music field and educating in there, attracting these young people, or what collaborations are you doing with, say, secondary educational facilities, organizations, to bring them in there? So a lot of these schools don't even have music classes anymore or instruments. Now, I'm gonna date myself, but I go back to when in high school, I was a counselor at your high school. And I saw
dated
you
me too.
I saw you playing flute in the marching band, and then I went and saw you at the Lighthouse, and then I said, whoa, she got something special going on, and been a big fan ever since. But I just want to know, because I'm trying to get involved with some other organizations that are involving themselves in STEAM, S-T-A, with the arts, part of STEM, and the musical aspect of that. What collaborations, if any, that you have been involved with, or I notice mentoring is a big part of your heart, if you would share something along those lines.
Thanks for your question. The mentoring aspect is important to me because that's what brought me into the fold, is people felt like this part of life was important, to realize that there's art and music and stuff. And so they took me to see it. And I think that since our schools have lost perhaps the sense of value of maintaining it as if it's something that's extra, our humanity and our understanding of its relevance and importance means that as tax-paying citizens, we have to demand that they put it back. Put it back. Because when their only concern is, and I'm not taking anything away from science, but if your only concern is that, you also are not necessarily exercising the creative energies that lead to the breakthroughs that happen with science. It's not an accident that certain people, like Einstein, for example, also played an instrument. I mean, the kind of intelligence that it takes to focus and to break the wall of what's right in front of you, realizing that intuition, realizing that feeling, realizing that certain realizations are what make us human, needs to be protected, and needs to be protected early on. You guys all hear about early childhood development and all the kinds of things that we do to expose our kids when they're really, really young. But the idea is for them not only to see it and we talk about it with them, is let them experiment with it. Let them get their hands dirty, get on an instrument, start dancing, roll around on the floor to music, get some scarves and wave them around. Do anything to move your body to the sound of music, because as human beings, that's what makes us different. And that sensitivity, I think, can start really, really early. So I support a lot of mentoring groups, and especially those for underprivileged kids. I do a lot of writing for beginning groups because I don't want them to sound like beginners. It's real easy, but it sounds good. They want to play. I do all kinds of things like that, but what I'd really love to see is for us to fight back and say, you know what? We took that stuff out of the schools, and what's going to save our lives is putting it back in.
I know we could go all evening. Let's take one more question, and I think we probably have to move on.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you so much. It's beautiful, big fan of you guys. I just wanted to ask, there was something mentioned about like creating a new Great American Songbook, and that piqued my interest. So I'd love to hear you guys expand on that, as well as like how we can incorporate voices of women and people of color in that songbook, as well as jazz educators, the responsibility you feel in creating that.
Did somebody say something about a great American? I think you meant in your Jerry Allen comment. You were like, it's great. Oh, I see. Okay. Yes. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I've just finished a compilation book of 101 jazz songs written by women composers, and the name of the book is called New Standards. Yeah. Thanks. Yes, Patrice Rushen has a song in the book, as well as Shorty's Portion, on your first record, right? Mm-hmm. And as well as Jerry Allen, who's the song that we played called Unconditional Love is in there as well, as well as 99 other songs. So this should be out next fall. But, you know, for me, there's this thing called the Real Book, and I didn't realize until I started this institute at Berkeley Institute of Jazz and Gender Justice, and we were doing our opening event, and I had some students playing, and they said, well, what songs do you want us to play from the Real Book? And I flipped through the book and realized there weren't any songs written by women. So that became like really the first initiative. There was one, Willow Weep for Me, so we played that for about an hour. No, I'm just joking. We did play that song, but we played many others that night. But I realized that we have to really look at the work that women have done over the years, not just playing or, you know, being musicians, but also being composers and being arrangers and being managers and, you know, business, being on the, you know, the backside of things, the background of things, on the business end. And there's a lot of invisible labor that happens. And so I think it's, you know, important to try to amplify some of that, what has happened in the past, which is corrective work, but also, you know, point to a different future where this kind of equity is being paid attention to.
Our very own Professor Sarah Gazarek is responsible for putting this evening together, and I think you may want to say a few things to the audience before we say goodbye.
Well, sadly, we've come to that point in the evening where we've reached the last song of the show, which always is, as a musician, one of the saddest moments of the day. But for this event is tremendously sad, because we've been looking forward to sharing the stage with these iconic genius musicians for over a year, when we found out that we were awarded this grant from the USC's Visions and Voices program. So I just want to take a second and just acknowledge the work of Visions and Voices in creating thoughtful and just tremendous programming that amplifies voices that should be amplified and asks questions at USC. And I'm grateful that they brought Terri Lynne and Patrice into the throes. And it's just an honor to share the stage with them. So I just want to take a second and acknowledge Visions and Voices, give it up for all the work that they're putting on. And there's a lot of people behind the scenes for an event like this, so I just want to take a second to acknowledge, of course, all of our sound and lighting people, monitor people, your volunteers. I also want to thank some incredible young geniuses in the making, geniuses basically already. Please give it up for Nicole McCabe. That's Ethan Chilton. Eliza Petrosian. Woo! Please give it up for the incredible Anna Butterss on bass. That's Patrice Rushen on piano and keys. Terri Lynne Carrington. My sisters in Sage, of course. That's Janae Kendrick. Woo! Amanda Taylor.
Sarah Gazarek.
Woo! Erin Bentledge. Of course, our moderator, Sean Holt. Thank you so much for keeping things going this evening. The most important thank you, of course, is to all of you for being here. Tonight was a really important event from my heart and my spirit. I feel inspired and moved by some of the words that were shared by the people on stage and the questions that were asked. So I hope that we can all move forward with a lot of thought and intention in our hearts. But for now, we just acknowledge you. Thank you so much. You've been wonderful.
I'll just go. All right. You got it. You do it.
Okay, the last song we're going to do is from an album that I did called The Mosaic Project. And Patrice is on that record, as well as a lot of, like, I think 21 women musicians. And this is the first track on the record, and it was written by Nona Hendryx, a song that I really loved as a teenager and person in my early 20s, and just decided to do a jazz rendition of it, and I had her sing it. And it became kind of like one of my favorite tracks on the record, so we put it first. But today was the first day I heard this amazing arrangement that y'all did with this. It's incredible. Amanda did it. Yeah, it's incredible. And the name of the song is Transformation, and it's so apropos right now because I think that's what we've been talking about all evening. We're, I think, experiencing a transformation in society and in academia and lots of places. So this song was written, I think, in the early 80s, but it's so apropos still to this day.
You got it. You got it.
Change your mind, change your skin. Light to death and weak to strength. Cash your check, change your sex. Day to night, dark to light. Hard to soft, on to off. Push to shove, hate to love. In and out, it's all about transformation. Oh, yeah. Wet to I move through doors, each time less more. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Oh, some people will, some people won't. Love to hate, karma or fate. What goes around will come back around. Beginning to end, we all are going to lose or win, rose to a thorn. Standing up for fall down. Silence always leaves its sound. It's just transformation. Mother Nature rules us all. Mother Nature rules us all. Mother Nature rules us all. Rules us all.
On behalf of Visions and Voices, the Thornton School of Music, Terri Lynne Carrington, Patrice Rushen, and Sage, and all of these wonderful musicians, thank you for joining us this evening. We wish you a safe, happy holiday season. Good night, everybody.